Hello friends, we are back with the GoPro Hero 12 Black for a follow-up video about one of my recent videos I posted a couple of days ago. That video was sort of a first look and all of the new features in the GoPro Hero 12 Black. Now the way embargoes work with the press and media when it comes to GoPro is that on that initial launch day, that initial announcement, you could talk about the new features, but you couldn't share your thoughts and opinions about the new features, and I wasn't able to share any side-by-side comparisons. And I'm happy to report that today is the day where that embargo ends, and I can finally talk about my thoughts and opinions about the GoPro Hero 12 Black, also some comparison footage that I've shot over the past week or so, and on top of that, a bunch of test data that I've compiled while comparing the GoPro Hero 12 Black to the 11 Black in terms of battery life and overheating, and I spent a lot of time on that. Now, the way this video is going to be structured is I'm basically going to walk through each feature one by one and talk about my opinions on it and if it actually matters for your specific use case. And at the end of this video, I'll wrap it all up with my thoughts and opinions about the GoPro Hero 12 Black, who I think it's for, is it worth upgrading to, should you get this over a different camera? That'll all be at the end of this video, but first, let's talk about the hardware. That should be the first thing we talk about. As you can see here, we've got the GoPro Hero 12 Black, and I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on the hardware because I've already showed it to you in the first video about this camera, and honestly, it looks nearly identical to the old GoPro Hero 11 Black. There are a couple of changes about the Hero 12 Black that make it interesting. The first, and I think the most advantageous feature when it comes to the hardware on the actual camera, is the inclusion of this 1/4-20 threaded mount on the bottom of the camera. As you can see here on the Hero 11 Black, that space was just a flat spot and there was no hole to accept a 1/4-20 threaded mount. Now I do wonder if I'd be able to take that piece off the Hero 12 Black and actually attach it to the Hero 11 Black, because the mounting portion looks the same. So you might be able to add this to the Hero 11 Black, but I'm not totally sure, and I'm not gonna take my camera apart right now to find out. Another detail about the Hero 12 Black I wanna cover is what's included in the box. Now this is probably, again, something you won't care about, but for me, it was kind of a bummer. Now I received this like reviewer's bundle, which had the max lens mod in the camera inside, and it's not retail packaging, so I wasn't sure what retail packaging would look like. However, after doing some scouring on YouTube and looking at pictures on Best Buy and stuff, I've noticed that GoPro is no longer bundling the free travel case that used to come with these cameras. I thought I should mention that. I cared, but you might not. Let's move on. Quick interruption, if you're finding this video fun or helpful, please consider going down and giving me thumbs up and subscribing to the channel down below, because that really helps me out. Also, if you're planning on picking up the GoPro Hero 12 Black, check out the links in the description down below because they do help support this channel and they cost nothing extra to you. Okay, back to the video. With all of the petty stuff like how it looks and what comes in the box out of the way, let's move into what really matters, the software. On the new GoPro Hero 12 Black, there's been a major software update. Basically, every menu system has been overhauled on this camera to be more intuitive and easy to use, and I really like it. So as you can see here from the standard camera view, I can swipe down from the top of the screen, and I've got a few extra options in here. On the right, if I swipe over, I've got a new section for pairing a Bluetooth device, which we'll talk about in a minute. But if I swipe left from the screen, there's also a new display for showing your GoPro cloud storage, which is actually really cool. But when it comes to the menu, that's really not the important stuff. If I go into the video settings here, that's where they've made the brunt of the changes, and a lot of changes I really appreciate. For example, there's no longer transparent background to all of your settings in the video settings here. They've also changed the layout here where you've got all of these blocks that light up blue, very obvious on what your settings are. Another great feature about this new menu system is that in the video settings, your settings kind of stick to the picture profile that's being used. For example, if I'm in my standard setting here, I've got it set to 16:9 as the aspect ratio. But if I jump over to HDR, you can see that it automatically jumps to 8:7 because that's the last setting that was used in HDR mode. And that works across all the settings. So if I have this set to 24 frames per second, for example, and then I jump back to standard and scroll down, you can see that's set to 60 frames per second. And of course, you don't have to use the picture profiles to store your settings. You can add presets just like on the Hero 11 Black as well by clicking Create New Preset here. I think I'll summarize the whole menu system as just being much better than on the previous models, and I really do like how they've got it laid out here. It's a lot simpler and easier to understand. And now that I've talked about the new menu system, you might be wondering, will the GoPro Hero 11 Black get this updated menu system because these cameras are so similar? Well, that's to be determined, and we'll talk more about this in sort of the final thoughts and wrap up at the end of this video. Moving right along to the next topic on the GoPro Hero 12 Black, and that's going to be image quality. And I want to summarize this really quickly because I don't think it's worth sharing tons of side-by-side footage in this video from the Hero 11 Black compared to the 12 Black, because in all honesty, in similar settings, these two cameras basically output the same video quality. And that's basically because these two cameras have the same image sensor, they've got the same processor. It's all kind of the same, but there are some differences on the Hero 12 Black that do give it a couple advantages. So the first thing I'm going to talk about here is HDR. So HDR video, if you're unaware, is high dynamic range video. And this has become super popular lately with things like the iPhone recording HDR video as well. Now, this video that I'm recording right now is not HDR. So any footage I show you from this GoPro Hero 12 Black in its HDR setting won't come across in this video the way it should be. However, in my testing so far with the GoPro Hero 12 Black in its HDR setting, I have noticed a couple of improvements even when recording just standard videos like you're watching right now. There seems to be more dynamic range squeezed into a standard video even when it's rendered out as non-HDR footage. The HDR setting is most noticeable in high contrast situations. So if you're in a dark room with a really bright window nearby with the sun blaring through it, typically on a GoPro, that window would just be blown out and it would look completely white. With HDR turned on the Hero 12 Black, you actually do get some details from outside the window, the blue sky, the person next door, the building next door, whatever. You get more information because there's more dynamic range being captured to the video file. I will try to get some samples uploaded in raw HDR to YouTube so you can see what it actually looks like, but in this video, you'll just have to accept my description of what it does. However, there are some limitations to HDR. For example, when you are using HDR mode on the Hero 12 Black, you actually lose the ability to use the horizon lock feature on the camera. And horizon lock, if you don't know, is when you spin the camera upside down, the horizon stays stable and level using the gyroscope data inside the camera. That's the same of the Hero 11 Black as well, and you lose that if you're in HDR mode. That's when you can only use horizon leveling mode, where it's kind of limited on how far it can go before it kind of clips over and you can see that the camera's turning. Another limitation to HDR mode on the Hero 12 Black is that it's not available when you're using the Max Lens Mod 2.0 on the Hero 12 Black. It's basically disabled in that case, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. With HDR aside, let's move on to the next picture profile that's new and exclusive to the GoPro Hero 12 Black, and that's GP Log. GP Log is essentially GoPro's answer to having a log picture profile in the camera. And a log picture profile is basically a fancy term for a low contrast, really flat looking image that allows professionals and prosumers to color grade it after the fact to match their big expensive cameras. If they're making a movie with multiple camera angles and they want everything to look perfect, you can use a log picture profile. Using a log picture profile will also allow you to squeeze the most dynamic range out of that image. So I've done some testing with log on the GoPro Hero 12 Black, and it's a cool feature, but it's really only for very specific people and specific use cases. If you're in a darker environment, I'm pretty sure the GoPro Hero 12 Black turns off its noise reduction, so you can use log accordingly. And unfortunately, that means you get a pretty grainy image. The shadows have a lot of noise and it's not like super clear. So I think I would end up adding noise reduction in post-production. And for a normal, everyday casual user out there, that might be a bit of a headache because it takes a lot of CPU power and it takes special software to do that. So I think for most people, I would suggest just not touching log or using it, or maybe trying it and seeing what it's all about. But don't go out on your first day with this camera and shoot everything in log, because you'll be left with a lot of work to do after the fact. It's a useful feature, I think, for a lot of pro users out there, but something I don't think an everyday user will really value. Moving right along to the next video feature I want to talk about is vertical video mode, and I'm a little bit perplexed about this one. So if you're unaware, vertical video mode basically crops a vertical image out of the square-ish sensor within the camera, so you can post it on things like TikTok or Instagram very easily with no cropping necessary or anything to think about after the fact. However, in my opinion, I think if I'm filming for vertical video, I would probably just use the 8:7 aspect ratio in 5.3K in standard video mode and get a nice big image I could crop into after the fact for that vertical image. Another thing to keep in mind is if you do use 8:7 aspect ratio in 5.3K, you actually get more resolution out of the image than if you just used vertical video mode, which is kind of confusing. Vertical video on the Hero 12 Black is capped at 4K resolution. That means the height of it is about 3,840 pixels tall. Now, if I use 5.3K in the square aspect ratio, I'll actually get 4,648 pixels. It gives you a little bit more resolution. It gives you some leeway to crop it after the fact. So for me, I probably won't use vertical video all the time, but for some people out there, it might be something useful and a selling point. Moving into the next topic on the Hero 12 Black would be Hyper Smooth 6.0 stabilization. And that is a fancy term for improved stabilization on the Hero 12 Black compared to the Hero 11 Black. Now, let me be honest. I thought the Hero 11 Black had some of the best stabilization from any camera that I've ever tested. And I've tested a lot of cameras. I've got like, I don't know, 10 or 11 different action cameras around here. And some of these newer ones like the Insta360 Go 3 come close, has great stabilization, but the Hero 11 was always my go-to because for my use case, which is mainly running and hiking and things like that, this just looked amazing when it came to stabilization. So when I got the Hero 12 Black, I was left wondering, how could you even improve the stabilization from the Hero 11 to the Hero 12? Is it a noticeable difference? Not really. I've done a bunch of testing with these cameras in stabilization, and I'm comfortable saying that they're very similar. I think in most situations, if you're just like an average user walking around this camera, you're not gonna notice any difference between stabilization. It really is only noticeable in really shaky, crazy vibration, like really jarring environments. The only time I could notice a difference between the stabilization of these two cameras is when it came to me holding a selfie stick with both cameras on it and shaking it violently, and that's the only time I could see an advantage to the GoPro Hero 12 Black, where it actually kept it surprisingly smooth using the new Auto Boost feature. With stabilization out of the way, let's move right into the next topic, and that is Bluetooth microphone support. Honestly, this is one of the more exciting features on the Hero 12 Black in my opinion, and I was super excited to test it out. So essentially, the GoPro Hero 12 can now pair with Bluetooth earbuds to use them as external audio sources for your videos. And not only that, you'll also get the audio alerts, like the little beeps from the camera in your earbuds. So if you want to start or stop recording, use the voice controls, you get confirmation that it started or stopped recording as well. And that all works really well. I've done a bunch of testing. I had this thing mounted to the hood of my car, and I was able to start and stop recording from inside the car and get audio from my earbuds. And I'll show you a clip of that now. And right now you're hearing an audio example from the GoPro Hero 12 Black that's mounted to the hood of my car while I'm cruising around this little parking lot right now, just for this example. And you should be able to hear me clear as day because I'm wearing the Apple Airpods Pro 2s, which are paired to the GoPro Hero 12 Black. And when it comes to what earbuds are supported, I've tested a bunch and most of them do not have a problem. I've tested things like the Apple Airpods Pro 2s, the Beats Fit Pro Earbuds, these Jaybird Vistas, and some other earbuds I have around here. And for the most part, everything worked as planned. With that said, I did have issues with a couple of devices, like these Bose Quiet Comfort 45s would not connect to the GoPro Hero 12 Black for some reason. It would show it as connecting, but they would never actually connect. And on top of that, I could not connect my Rodecaster Pro 2 to the GoPro Hero 12 Black, which was kind of a bummer. I thought I'd be able to connect the Rodecaster to my GoPro and record a podcast with multiple people and record all that audio data to the GoPro, which would be kind of an interesting use case. Now I want to do a Bluetooth range test from the earbuds I'm wearing, which are the Apple Airpods Pro 2s, which are connected wirelessly via Bluetooth to the GoPro Hero 12 Black. I'm going to walk in that direction and continue to talk, and hopefully the connection stays stable while I do this. And we'll see how far I can get. I'd say right now I'm probably 20 feet, 30 feet maybe from the cameras. Now I'm probably, 40 feet from the cameras. And I'm just going to keep walking until we lose connection to the GoPro Hero 12 Black. I'm really curious how far this is actually going to go. Right now. And when it comes to the audio quality recorded by the camera when you're using earbuds, it really comes down to what earbuds you're using. But I don't think any of the earbuds I've tried in my testing so far sound any better than the onboard microphone. So I'd say if you're like vlogging or just walking around talking to the camera, you're still better off just using the microphone on board and not earbuds. And one great feature about the audio coming from the Hero 12 Black is that you don't actually lose the raw audio if you have earbuds paired to the camera. You still get the raw audio coming from the microphones plus the audio coming from your earbuds on two different tracks. So when you're editing the clips after the fact, you can actually choose if you want to use the earbud audio or you want some ambient noise from outside your car or microphone. You can mix and match, and that's really useful. Next up on the feature list to the GoPro Hero 12 Black is actually not a feature at all. It's a feature that was removed from the Hero 12 Black, and that is GPS. This was a point of major complaints in the comments of my last video here on YouTube. The GoPro Hero 12 Black no longer features GPS on board. The older GoPro Hero 11 Black has GPS on board. Now, why would GoPro do that? Well, I asked them about that, and they had a couple of reasons. First up is cost. They wanted to bring the cost of building the camera down. On top of cost reduction by removing that GPS chip, I also wonder if it leads to any improvement in performance and battery life and overheating and things like that, which we will talk about in a minute. But just know there is no GPS on board on the Hero 12 Black. GoPro also claimed that less than 1% of its users actually use the GPS on their cameras. So that's another reason to remove it. And for me personally, I've never actually used that feature, but I'm also not somebody who uses my GoPro in my car, on a motorcycle, on a mountain bike, and it seems like those use cases are more suited for the GPS feature. For me, I'm mainly hiking, running, walking, climbing, that sort of situation where GPS isn't all that valuable to me. For those people who really want GPS data in their video files on their GoPro, I do wonder if GoPro could add some sort of functionality where they could piggyback your phone's GPS data and embed that into the video file. So if you have your phone and your GoPro at the same time, you still get GPS data. That's not something they're doing yet. That's just something I hope they can do in the future. That would be super cool. Moving into the next topic, and that's going to be the Max Lens Mod 2.0 that I have here in the little rubber case, and I'll put it on the camera so we can talk about it. It's the next iteration of the Max Lens Mod 1.0. This Max Lens Mod is wider. This gives you a 177-degree field of view, which is essentially whatever's in front of the camera. You're gonna catch that because it's so incredibly wide. That 177-degree spec is super impressive and incredibly wide, but keep in mind, wider isn't always better. In some cases, you might want a narrower field of view to reduce distortion and not make you look so weird if you're talking to the camera. Trust me, you don't want that Max Lens Mod right in your face. The Max Lens Mod 2.0 is going to be most useful in POV sports. I can imagine rock or ice climbing, mountain biking, skiing, dirt biking, riding an ATV, anything like that where you want your viewer to be super immersed in what you're doing. And to do that, I would suggest wearing something like a head strap or a chest mount, something like that, so they can really feel like they're actually there. And for that kind of purpose, I think the Max Lens Mod 2.0 is super cool. Another nice upgrade to the Max Lens Mod 2.0 is that it now retains 4K at 60p with Horizon Lock enabled with the Max Lens Mod attached. On the previous model, you were stuck in 2.7K. And the final thing to note about the Max Lens Mod 2.0 is that you actually lose a couple of features when you turn it on and attach the lens to the camera. You cannot use HDR or GP log with the Max Lens Mod 2.0 attached, so just keep that in mind if you're interested in this. And that brings us to the next topic of this video, which is a huge can of worms: battery life and overheating. So one of the big selling features on the Hero 12 Black is that GoPro claims that they've doubled the battery life over the Hero 11 Black. That is a huge claim. However, it doesn't really tell the whole story. So on the GoPro Hero 11 Black, in terms of battery life, it can actually record up to 61 minutes in its maximum resolution and frame rate at 5.3K at 60 frames per second. While in the new Hero 12 Black, it's advertised at 70 minutes, and that's really only a 13% improvement. That's not double the battery life. But that's where the thermal limitations of these cameras come in, because while the battery life may last for 61 minutes, the Hero 11 Black would turn off right around 35 minutes of recording in that maximum resolution because it would overheat. Now in the Hero 12 Black, GoPro claims to have solved that issue by updating the cooling design and more efficiently processing things under the hood. So let's talk about some of the test results I got. So first of all, let me tell you about the environment of this room. This room is air conditioned and it's set at 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's where it stays. 22 Celsius around there. It's very controlled and there's not a lot of variables variables here. And in this first example, I set both cameras to their maximum resolution and frame rate, 5.3K 60p with hypersmooth turned on, with the boost and auto boost function turned off. On top of those settings, both cameras also had their bitrate set to high to get the maximum image quality. And also, the most important part of this test is that there was no airflow for this test example. I had both cameras set on GoPro mounts on a shelf, no wind, no fans. So in this example, both cameras recorded the exact same amount of time before overheating at 26 minutes and 2 seconds, give or take like 1 second. Both cameras turned off at identical times. So at this point, you're probably wondering, what gives? Why are both these cameras turning off and overheating in the same duration of time with the same settings? Well, that all comes down to the fine print on GoPro's battery specs, which I'll show you here. And that indicates to hit these numbers, we're gonna need a 0.6 meter per second breeze, which is basically like a light breeze. So a little bit of wind on these cameras apparently goes a long way. For science, I set out and did some more testing. However, this time I had a fan set up to generate a light breeze. And I had my fan set to its lowest setting, which is not a breeze at all. It's a really gentle, very, very light breeze, something you hardly notice by putting your hand in front of it. So again, I had both cameras set to 5.3K 60p, hypersmooth on, auto boost off. And this time around, with the fan turned on, I got 39 minutes with the GoPro Hero 11 Black and 68 minutes with the GoPro Hero 12 Black. That is much more in line to their claims and a lot more than the Hero 11 Black. With all of that said, I want you to put one big asterisk on this testing. I need to do a lot more testing. I'm left pretty unsatisfied with the testing I've done between these two cameras, and I'm going to do a lot more and do a follow-up video down the road. But for now, this is a starting point. Take it with a grain of salt. This is what it is so far in my testing so far. With overheating and battery life out of the way, that was a can of worms. That brings us to the final section of this video. Final thoughts, conclusions, should you upgrade? Who's it for? Let's talk about that now. So I want to summarize the upgrades of the Hero 12 Black in 2 buckets, right? We've got hardware changes and software changes. When it comes to hardware, we got that quarter 20 thread at the bottom. We've got a new Bluetooth chipset for Bluetooth microphone support. We've got the removal of the GPS chip inside. We've got the improved battery life in some situations. That's probably a hardware change as well. Maybe some kind of internal heatsink change, and maybe some changes in terms of hardware when it comes to Max Lens Mod 2.0 and Hypersmooth. Maybe if there's like different gyros and stuff in there, I'm not totally sure. That's basically all of the hardware changes on the Hero 12 Black. And now if we look at the software side of things in the software bucket, that's where we've got things like the updated menu system. We've got the new picture profiles for HDR and GP log. We've also got vertical video mode. We've got the new photo modes with interval shooting and night effects. And we've got time code syncs, which I haven't mentioned yet, but we'll cover that some other time. So you can see here that there's a lot of hardware changes, but there's even more software changes. And that's where I'm left wondering, where does that leave the GoPro Hero 11 Black? Will this get any of these other features like HDR, GP log, vertical video mode that seem to be purely software based? I'm not totally sure, and the answer seems a little unclear right now. I can only hope so. But as things stand now, it looks like this. The GoPro Hero 12 Black is $399, the Hero 11 Black is $349, and then the Hero 10 Black, which I have around here somewhere, is $249 here in the USA. And I think that's where I'm a little bit perplexed, because I think if you're looking at buying the GoPro Hero 11 Black, it's kind of a no-brainer to spend $50 extra and get more features in the GoPro Hero 12 Black. That is, unless you really needed that GPS feature on the Hero 11 Black. However, I understand you might want to save some money, and that's where I'd say, instead of getting the Hero 11 Black, get the Hero 10 Black, because at $249, you get a lot of the same features in the Hero 10 Black as these cameras for significantly less money. And if we leave the GoPro ecosystem, of course, there are a lot of other options out there, like the Insta360 Go 3, which comes in at a similar price point. This one's $399 at the 64GB option. And this camera is super versatile. It's got the tiny little removable camera. It's got a flip-up vlogging screen and a lot of really cool functions, but not quite the same resolution or stabilization or anything like that. It's a much different camera. And I wouldn't be able to end this video without mentioning the DJI Osmo Action 4. That camera has a lot of the same features of the GoPro Hero 12 Black, and it's at the same price point. Which one do you get? I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't have a DJI Osmo Action to test out in this video, but stay tuned because I will have more comparisons down the road. Ultimately, at the end of the day, in my opinion, the GoPro Hero 12 Black is sort of an iterative update. It's not like a life-changing update compared to the Hero 11 Black. And honestly, I hope they can take some of the software features in this camera and port them over to the Hero 11 Black, because that would be really nice for existing users. I think if you already own a Hero 11 Black, there's not a lot of reason to upgrade to the Hero 12 Black unless you really want that Bluetooth audio, the quarter 20 thread, or some of these other new features that really speak volumes to you, then yeah, go for it. But for everybody else out there that's just using it casually, you're filming your kids in the pool or whatever, the Hero 11 Black is definitely more than enough. With all that said, that brings us to the end of this video and the point of the video where I want to hear from you. Are you going to get the GoPro Hero 12 Black, or are you going to save some money on the Hero 11 Black or the 10 Black? Are you going to get the DJI Osmo Action or the Insta360 Go 3? Let me know in the comments of this video down below. I would love to hear from you. That is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, found some value in it, and if you did, please consider going down and giving me a thumbs up. Subscribing to the channel down below because that really helps me out. Check out the links in the description down below because they help support this channel. Check me out on Instagram and check out my podcast in the description down below. All that really helps me out. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Bye.